I found out that I was pregnant when I was 7 weeks. The pregnancy kind of came as a surprise, a good surprise.
I couldn't wait. I knew it was a boy.
Didn't have any pregnancy issues. I had about 3 ultrasounds, and then we had the anatomy scan, which was supposed to show any heart defects. Everything checked out, good to go, perfectly healthy, so we thought. 1:42 p.m. Easton was born. I was really happy. He was a little blue when he came out, didn't raise any red flags to the doctors. We thought he was perfectly healthy, went on like a normal couple days until we got ready to be discharged. He had been gone quite a few hours, then we called up to the nursery and were like, what's going on with our baby? They told us that he failed his pulse ox screening. And then they, God, I get choked up talking about it. So they did an echocardiogram and he failed it. And he told us, he was like, we don't know what's wrong, but we know it's something very severe. It was silent. We didn't have any words to even say to each other.
Longest drive ever.
Yeah. We didn't know if he was even going to make it to the hospital. When we got there, they revealed to us that he had 2 large-size holes. His heart was about the size of a strawberry, and his holes were about this big compared to a strawberry, which they said there was no way that they would close on their own. They got a whole team to review his echo.
He was born with complex single ventricle anatomy. Most of our senior pediatric cardiologists had never seen. Now, the nice thing is that despite what's going on inside his heart in terms of the abnormal ventricles and the position and whatnot, the actual conduct of the operation that we have to do is pretty straightforward.
Our child had 5 major defects, so he was going to need a 3-step surgery, not knowing what's going to happen to him. It was hard. I mean, you hear stories all the time, but you don't ever think that it's going to happen to your own child. It was a rough couple of days trying to get all the loving we could in with him because we didn't know what would happen. Stayed up that whole night of his surgery, held him, fed him, tried to love on him. It was a lot of unknowns for us, as well as some of the doctors, because, our first question was, if y'all have never seen a setup like this, are y'all sure this surgery is going to work? And they reassured us that this was the route to take. The hardest part for me was handing him off, because they take him away with him awake before they put him to sleep. I think that was probably the hardest.
All right.
Yeah. The surgery ended up taking about 8 hours. And that was another hard thing, was seeing him for the first time after surgery. You couldn't even recognize him. He was hooked up to a bunch of tubes. They came to us not sure if he was going to make it. They came to us and said, just go sit by his bed. There's nothing we can do right now. And that was really hard to hear as a parent, looking at your kid like that.
Congenital heart defects are the most common form of birth defects among children. Congenital heart disease happens about 1 in 110 times. So of every 110 babies, 1 of them is born with congenital heart disease. It's critical to detect congenital heart disease before babies get sick. That's why we've developed pulse oximetry screening for critical congenital heart disease, because there are some very subtle differences that you can't pick up by your eye that can help detect those heart diseases. And what we do with pulse ox screening is we look at the oxygen level in the right hand and either leg in a baby. It's very simple. It's painless. They tape a probe around the baby's hand or finger or the foot or the toe. And then we look at the oxygen saturation and we compare the hand to the foot. And in these critical congenital heart disease, there can be very subtle differences. It's so subtle that your naked eye can't pick it up. And so we've begun to get laws and regulations passed to ensure that every baby gets screened. The Heart Association has been hugely important in supporting this.
I don't think there's enough thank yous that could come out of my mouth for people that have passed that mandated law for these kids to have these pulse ox screenings.
The pulse ox is what revealed Easton's heart problem.
Thank God. That's all I can really say. Today, he is actually doing fairly well. He carries on like a normal kid. Easton will have to have his second surgery, which is the third and final step. We're hoping that the surgery will be his last. But
Fingers crossed.
yeah. He's a pretty happy baby for the most part. We just enjoy every day with him that we do have. And just try to stay positive. I feel like without the American Heart Association, Easton might not be here today. With all the research they have done for kids with CHD, they've really been a bright light
A blessing.
and a blessing.